Hi everyone, I hope you had a good Christmas. I just wanted to pop on here and quickly speak about my thoughts on Volume 2 of Stranger Things Season 5. Obviously, we got the next three episodes that dropped last night on Christmas Day after what felt like an eternity, couple weeks wait from Volume 1 that ended on such a cliffhanger, and it was just fantastic. So I'm going to start with the positives of Volume 2. First off, I want to speak about how much I love the Max Holly storyline. As Max knows Mike, and obviously Mike is Holly's brother, I think that connection has really built up this beautiful, like, big sister type relationship with Max and Holly. And I think both of their acting has been fantastic, and it's definitely been one of the more intriguing storylines, especially with Max being stuck in Henry's mind. And obviously, as an audience, we're still trying to figure out what that all means and kind of being given breadcrumbs slowly to reveal like what went on in Henry's past and maybe what his big plan is and how his evil came to be. So that's definitely been one of the highlights for me. Another thing I've loved is the relationship between Jonathan and Nancy, especially in that one scene where they think that they're going to die and they finally speak to each other about all their problems and realizing that maybe this thing had brought them together. And obviously, it's kind of a bond that they have due to this situation they've gone through, but maybe long term they're not the best match. And finally being true to themselves and putting it all out there. It felt very realistic because obviously people have similar situations in real life. I thought it was really well done. I didn't personally think either of them were going to die because I think they're both very strong characters, and I just didn't see the Duffer Brothers killing them off, but it finally gave them room to be honest about their feelings and get everything out on the table. So, really loved that. And lastly, the relationship between Dustin and Steve. To be honest, I didn't love how Steve was acting towards Dustin in the first volume. I understand Dustin's grieving Eddie and why he is acting the way he is, but with Steve, it just felt a little out of character that he was kind of being a jerk, I feel like, and not really understanding like where Dustin is coming from and why he is acting this way. But I think the rift between the two really set up this beautiful moment where Dustin tells Steve how much he cares about him and how he can't lose another friend like Eddie. And it was such a beautiful, touching moment. And I really loved that. And lastly, I do really like, I mean, Jamie Campbell Bower is such an amazing actor. It really shows in Stranger Things since he joined the show. And I do like his storyline. I think the build up's been exciting and us wondering like what his plan is, what he's doing. So overall, I would say that I've enjoyed that. There are a couple things that I will get into in my negatives as to what I don't love about his storyline, but yeah, we'll get there in a minute. Other things in Volume 2 I really liked. I loved Will's coming out moment to all his family and friends. Um, Again, I think like the Duffer Brothers' heart was in the right place with this moment and this writing, and him finally accepting who he is. Obviously, partly due to Robin and the push she's given him to just be himself and be accepting of who he is. So, overall, I did enjoy the moment and thought the heart of the show was in the right place with how everything played out there. So yeah, I think that's a lot of the positives. Also, I just want to mention like the reunion between Lucas and Max had me bawling. They're one of my favorite, if not my favorite couple in the show. I knew it was gonna come and I knew I would cry. There was a moment there that I actually thought that Vecna was gonna ruin the plan again. I was like, please just don't interject yourself right now because I will be like heartbroken if it happens again. But thankfully it did not. So I really loved that moment. And I just want to say as a side note, I don't know if anyone else thought this, but when Vecna was trying to like ruin the plan and send the demos after Max, it kind of like zoomed into the hospital room. And for a second, I actually thought that Vecna was going to go into Max's body. Like, did anyone else think that, or am I just weird? Because for a second, I was like, oh my God, he's going to go into her body so that she can't come back to her own physical body. And I was like, freaked out. Like, this is dark, but thankfully didn't happen. So yeah, that was just a side note. So yeah, the reunion between them two, and then the beautiful speech between Holly and Max before Max made it back to her body. Thought that was really well done. And yeah, so those have been some highlights of the season. Also, just want to mention, obviously, Will's powers that were revealed at the end of Volume 1, and then some really great moments in Volume 2, particularly when he taps into Vecna's powers and speaks through Vecna to Max. I thought that was like really creepy, but also really cool. And so that was, yeah, definitely another high moment for me that I really enjoyed. So I think that's pretty much my pros. And now I'm going to get into cons. So first of all, one of my biggest concerns with this season is how it kind of feels like we've had some character development over volume 1 and 2, particularly with Will. I think like Holly and Max had some as well. And then Jonathan and Nancy, obviously being honest with their feelings. But I still feel like there's a lot that has not been explored that I really thought at this point in the show would be. And then there's like moments in the show that feel really rushed, and it just kind of feels like, oh, there's a flight. It kind of feels like there's like a huge exposition dump at times. And then other things really take like their sweet ass time to be explored, and it's just felt a little uneven pacing wise to me. So that's like a huge negative for me. There's been some really powerful moments in the show, as I said, that I've really enjoyed. But across the board, I feel like things have been kind of inconsistent. Like we'll have a really powerful moment that makes me cry, and then there's another moment where it just feels like things are kind of plodding along, and I'm like, is any like what's happening? So that's been something that I've kind of struggled with this season, especially as someone who considers season 4 probably the best of the show. I kind of and ah between season 1 and 4 as to which is my favorite. But yeah, I think there's just been moments in season 5 where I feel like things feel a bit like dull and like dragged out. So that's been, kind of a negative for me. I also feel like the Upside Down doesn't really feel scary anymore. Like when we go back to season 1, and even like 2, 3, 4, like it, especially in 1 though, obviously it's like very mysterious. But when they go in there, it feels like eerie and scary, and like, oh my God, is a demo going to pop out at any moment? Like we didn't know what was going to happen. But in season 5, I feel like for how much budget there is, it's felt like a lot of the sets just kind of look like some kind of like old building that just had like vines put on the walls. Like the Nancy Jonathan room. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I just didn't feel like it really packed that like eerie punch. And it just, yeah, it's kind of lost some of that like mystery and scariness that we saw in previous seasons. So that was something that was just kind of taking me a bit out of the story. Um, and then we come to Vecna's story, which I think is one of the biggest negatives. I honestly thought that we would have a whole episode dedicated to Vecna and his past, and we might find out like, how did he actually gain powers? And has he always been evil since he was born, or did something happen? Like, we don't really know. There's still so much uncertainty there with Vecna, and I feel like we still don't really know much. Like, there was that cave scene, where we kind of saw, him come across a scientist with the briefcase that he had, and he, acted in self-defense. But like, what does that even mean? We still don't really have like much idea about Vecna, I feel like. And I'm kind of concerned at this point. Like, we have one episode left. Granted, it's 2 hours, but I just worry that there's going to be like loads of exposition dump and everything's going to feel rushed. And then we have to wrap up all the stories of the other characters. It's such a big cast. And I'm worried. Like, I'm scared, you know? I'm scared that this is going to just feel very underwhelming. Right now, I do feel like a bit underwhelmed by this season. Like I said, there's been some really powerful moments that have made me cry. Um, some of the interactions between the characters have been beautiful, but it still feels like we're kind of plodding along, and like I kind of wanted a bit more from these episodes. And I'm just kind of surprised that we didn't get like a whole episode dedicated to Vecna in this lead up to the finale. And then we didn't find out a bit more. I mean, I guess like in the last couple episodes, they've got, kind of laid out what the Upside Down is. But I just thought we'd be a bit further along in the story at this point. There still feels like a lot of uncertainty and things to explore among all the characters. And I'm just worried that at the end it's going to stumble and all feel a bit rushed. So I think that's kind of my main review. I'd really love to know what you all think. But yeah, I hope you have a good day and let me know in the comments like what you agree with, what you disagree with. Maybe you saw things differently. I'd love to hear from you.